Alright, I'm going to take Elizabeth off the screen now. And we just did... Did we just do Arik? We did Arik. He did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Khalil.
It's like, what's up in that wood, yo?
Khalil, what are you doing, Khalil? You're sleeping at the forge?
Yeah. No, I was going full demon on the on Tabletop Simulator, but now I'm fine. Everything's fine now.
Okay, so you go to the forge, you walk down there, and again, long ass walk.
Yep.
And you get down to the forge, and you see Thodrin is sitting out in front of the forge in his chair. He's got his pipe out, and he's smoking it. And he sees you coming up the way, and he does not like that you're coming up the way.
I'm sorry he feels that way.
Are you really?
Yeah. I'll say to him, good day.
He says it was.
I know you've got some kind of issue with me, and I would like to know what it is.
He just snorts. Doesn't respond in words. Should we roll initiative? Are you about to bull rush him?
No.
Be my friend!
No. Alright then. I'll just lean up against some rubble across the road from the forge,
Okay.
pull up my own pipe, light it up, and just sit there.
Is this the pipe you got from the Goblin Tower?
Yeah,
Con save.
cool.
How long you been waiting for that?
Oh, that was
Awesome.
so worth it.
Nothing
Yeah.
happens, I just wanted to hear everybody laugh.
That's fine.
Goblin curse, now you're a goblin.
What do you...
Yay!
And the party hates you and wants to kill you.
So you just sit there and spite smoke with this guy for a while?
No, I'm just it ball's in his court now. I'm here, and he's gonna have to deal with that.
When he notices that you're not leaving, he stands up and walks inside the forge and closes the door.
Mm.
And you're clanking coming up the road.
Hand on my sword, look around.
Looking up the road, you see Mock is coming down towards the forge. And in his full armor with his satchel hanging down his chest and his greatsword on his back.
I'll just look at him and just shake my head.
This is no luck with you either, hey?
He's got some bug up his butt about me and you apparently, but
So
can't imagine why.
Wonder what it could be.
That's what I was hoping to find out, but doesn't appear to be in a talking mood.
He looks very dissatisfied. Like, this is a man, he claims to be weighed down with money, and he has work for him. I'll tell you what, I have half a mind to force my way in there.
That's probably not likely to let you to get him to do business with you. That's why I was trying my own approach.
You're still holding your pipe? Are you still holding your pipe?
Yeah,
How's that working for you?
not very well, but I'm not inclined to try violence.
I didn't say anything about violence. I said force my way in there. Don't mean we have to
I
hurt the
wouldn't
little
do that.
bugger.
I wouldn't do that.
Mock looks very disturbed by this turn of events. Like, before, he was thinking there was some reason why this dwarf didn't want to do business, but now he knows it's something with him specifically, and it's got him very, very riled up. He's very upset. He says, so what, you're just gonna roll over? Let this dwarf piece of trash just walk all over you like this?
Hey,
Treat you like awful? Is that it?
I'm not inclined.
Awkward.
You're what?
I'm not inclined to punch someone in the face just because they don't like me.
So I can think of no better reason to punch someone in the face.
They need to do a lot more than that to me if they want me to punch them in the face.
What do you suggest we do then?
You're on your own in that regard, sir.
Well, then what are you going to do?
I haven't decided yet.
He contemplates something, and he goes to say something, but then catches himself and thinks better of it. And instead, he says, if you manage to break through his thick dwarf skull, he says, let me know. Just put in a good word for me, and I'll give you a reward.
I'll think on that.
Are you wearing your sword?
Yeah.
Mock looks down at it. That's a fine weapon you're holding there yourself.
It is.
So have you ever considered
Dude, he's totally hitting on you.
I know.
Have you ever considered that you might need something bigger, though? And he pulls out his own greatsword. He's got this giant two-handed sword. And holds it out at length off to the side, so you can see the length of it and the weight of it.
It's totally coming on to me.
Told you.
You know, where I come from, a man does not draw a weapon unless he intends to use it.
Damn! Roll initiative.
And you see all of the... Like, he was bragging about his sword a second ago, and you see all the bravado in his face just drain away, and it's replaced almost instantly with anger. He responds, are you threatening me?
No.
That's good, because I
Not
will
at all.
cut you down where you stand, boy.
Boy.
Well, you're wearing... What kind of armor?
Chainmail?
Chainmail, and it's rusted in places, and you've got this battered shield.
Yep. Yep, chainmail.
So I'm sorry, he said, are you threatening me?
No, not at all.
What
Like
did
I
you
said, a man does not draw his weapon unless he intends to use it.
mean? I have used it. I've used it on dragons, I've used it on orcs.
You pull it out now. Do you intend to use it on me?
I was showing you the fine craftsmanship of my weapon. And he goes back and he sheathes it. Again, on his back.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I would have expected a man of your skill set to appreciate such a thing. Looks like I was mistaken.
Believe whatever you want.
Find out whose dick is bigger.
Making all kinds of friends.
And Mock turns around and starts heading back up the path.
Alright.
So I just want to point out, clerics can no longer detect evil, but NPCs apparently can.
Well, he's a 3rd edition dwarf.
Right. And then what, Khalil?
I'm just gonna stay here, lean against the rebels still.
How long do you intend to stay here leaning against the rubble?
Till afternoon, at least.
So you're going to spend the whole morning out here smoking?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm trying to get a sense of distance here. I don't really know what the distances of here are. I guess it doesn't matter. We'll go to Zook.
As far as you need it to be, man.
What's good, Zook?
I'm gonna go up and say hey to my new ranger friends, or at least try to make friends with the old man.
When you get down to the house, down to the ranger shack, the three of them are standing out front. Ben, the man you saw come in with the hares for the old fat merchants, and Kelutar, the half-orc. The third one, Vofak, is the largest man you've ever seen in your life. Easily. He's 9 feet tall if he's an inch. This man is gargantuan. And he's carrying a longbow as though it's a short bow. But he doesn't have any melee weapons on him. He's not wearing armor the way that Ben and Kelutar are. He's wearing... he's wearing nothing on the top. He's shirtless. And then he's wearing thick brown trousers
He is a big, manly man.
Strong leather boots. And he looks like he's solid muscle. He's got faded tattoos across one side of his face, but you can't really... they're faded into his skin tone quite a bit. His skin is splotched all over the place. In some places, his skin looks pale. In some places, it looks darker. It's like that condition Michael Jackson pretended to have. And what else was there about this guy? His hair is done up similar to Kelutar's, where he's just... Except he doesn't have a top knot. He just has it combed straight back into a ponytail that comes down his back. And he's wearing thick boots. And like you could climb into one of these boots and take a nap.
Seriously considering it.
What race is he?
Yeah, I was gonna say, he
looks like a 9
human?
foot tall human. He looks friggin' enormous.
Awesome.
Sounds hot.
I mean, you fought hill giants. He's not that big.
Does Zook want to go mountain climbing?
Duke is not just gonna go climbing on some random dude. Okay. Well, do they notice me coming up? Do they wave? Are they friendly?
Yeah, I mean, they greet you as you come up.
Alright, and I make to, first of all, introduce myself to Ben, because I saw him the day before, and then I get the impression he's, like, the leader.
Yeah, and he is. I mean, he's lived on this mountain his whole life. He and his father lived here. Back in those days, the Githzerai arrived. They showed him the ways of the mountains. They showed him, like, how they could scale it. They probably helped doing some of the clearing work and reconstruction. They helped him survive the first few winters here. Kind of get their holdings.
Mm-hmm.
So, and very friendly. I mean, rough around the edges, not very sociable, but friendly enough. He seems impressed that you came to ask to go hunting, like as a mark of respect. Like that's how it should be done. You come into a man's land before you hunt his game. You get his permission. He very much acts like this is his woods. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Vofak says nothing. Very, very quiet the whole time.
Will he respond to me if I address him, or is he just...
He acknowledges that you address him, but it's like if all you say is good morning, you get a polite nod in response. Do you ask him any direct questions?
Zook's just... he's pretty blunt, but he's gonna say affably, he's gonna say... phrasing. He's gonna say... I gotta tell you, everyone looks tall from down here, but even I can tell you are quite tall. That is impressive.
And Kelutar responds. He says, well, that's just as well. Everything looks very short from up there. And he and Ben share a laugh, and Vofak crosses his arms and smiles.
Okay. I don't think I want to push it, but...
Like, before now, the biggest human you've probably seen was Mount John in Kiska. And he was big, but he was like...
He was like, what, 7 foot tall or something?
He was 6 foot something. He probably wasn't even 7, but he was built, he was muscular, and he had a huge weapon. This guy towers over Mount John.
Right. That's cool.
They're actually going to be hunting in the woods beyond the walls today.
Well, I ask him if it's okay if I join him. I tell him, basically the same thing I told Teletar the day before. Like, I don't have much use. My partner's wanting to go to the monastery. I'm kind of along for the ride, and I wouldn't mind, just getting out and exploring the woods and, earning my keep a little bit.
Okay. Well, Ben tells you that yesterday Vofak thought he saw some deer in a stream a ways away from the walls. That's what they're going to be going after today. He says he figures he can bring this deer back and make a killing if he sells it to these old merchants.
Okay. Well, I tell him, I'm not trained as a ranger, so tracking's not my thing, but I definitely can move quietly, so if he doesn't mind me tagging along, I'd love to come.
And he says if you can move quietly and shoot, that's all it takes.
Beautiful. That's what I'm
You're
down.
saying multi-classing into rangers are way easy. You just have to move quietly, shoot, and be a racist.
Now, to be clear, hunting deer, all it takes is to be able to move quietly and shoot. To be a ranger, there's a lot more to that. Like, if he wanted to take a level in Ranger, it would be a lot more involved.
Right,
No.
that's the racism.
It would spend...
Yeah, you gotta get the racism in there.
First, like, Zook, I would have him... he would have to spend, like, 6 to 8 months of downtime here in the woods training under Ben.
No, this is not me wanting to multi-class. This is more just in character wanting to be out in the woods, you know. And out of character, I did kind of like want to be a ranger at one point, but I'm not going to actually go through the stress of multi-classing.
See, Rangers would be the dumbest class in the game if it weren't for Druids. So, and Druids are just Rangers that don't do anything cool.
Hey, Rangers are cool.
No, they're not.
I like Rangers.
Hey,
Yes,
Druids
they
are cool.
Nature is
I
the
bet
enemy
it's-
and must be destroyed.
I bet I could make a fun ranger, but I'm not going to do that just now.
So, Zook,
Yes.
I want you to make me... Hold on one second here. Don't tell me the results now. Just record these for later when we come back to you, okay?
Okay.
Make me 3 stealth checks.
Mm-hmm.
Make me 3 investigation checks. And make me
Taking that all in.
3 survival checks. And just record the results, and we'll come back to them in a little
Okay.
while. I'm going to do Eldove before Tarin. Eldove is laying in the woods dead over here. Like, what happened,
He's all
Eldove?
burned out.
Listen, that tea.
Those tea was pretty bitter.
Now, Eldove, you dreamt very, very vividly last night. You had a hell of a time getting comfortable on this horrible straw mat down in this cold cellar with a blanket that barely covered all of you. You twisted and turned for hours before finally falling asleep, but you dreamed like you've never dreamt before. And the dream that you had, you're standing in the Goblin Tower. You're standing in the map room with the sandbox. The door is closed behind you. You don't hear the sounds of goblins. Everything seems very calm and very serene. And you look down at the map, and instead of it being a whole map of Trennis, it's zoomed way, way in, and it's showing familiar countryside around Dunfoss, places where you've lived your whole life. And you see yourself created, a little tiny half-elf made out of a few dozen grains of sand, sitting cross-legged in the middle of a field, and in front of you have a huge book, a big book, and you're going over it. And around you, in a circle, you see some of the sand has formed a circle around you, like a magical sigil out of purples and pinks and other unnatural colors, contrasted against the grass. And you're poring over this book, and the little sand Eldove reaches down and begins performing this ritual. And you see some of these purple and pink grains of sand begin forming a strand that comes up out of you and goes up into the air. And as it does, you look around the edge of the sandbox, and white grains of sand form up and start heading to intercept the pink ones that are going up directly in front of you. And it forms almost like a shield or a barrier and prevents these pink grains of sand from going any higher. And when that happens, it bounces back and starts heading back at an angle towards the edge of the sandbox. And it starts to zoom out. Starts to zoom out so you can see the whole world again. And it zooms out even farther so you can see beyond what you saw in the sandbox in the tower. In one direction, you see just endless fields of licking flame over beyond the deserts of Romneus. Beyond the mountains of Tetlateus, it starts to form just an endless gray wall of stone, impenetrable. And then to the south, and beyond the oceans of Aqueous, it forms a giant wall of solid ice. And this pink strand bounces off of the shield in the sky, and it lands very, very deep in the licking flames. And then you see another strand come up. Little Sand Eldove tries again, and this time it bounces off, and it heads all the way down into the wall of stone. And you see this repeat itself several times before you wake up in the morning, and that is your dream.
Well, that seemed relatively clear.
And so then you wandered off into the woods and fell over, apparently. So what is your morning action?
Well, I already took my morning action.
Did you?
It was to go to the baths while no one was there.
Oh, so you spent all morning doing that. Okay. Destil.
Yes.
Tarin goes to the meditation room, and it is prepared for you. There is... Oops, I lost my notes here. Everything in this building, which was once a church or a chapel or something, and it withstood the original devastation relatively intact. Oh yeah, now that I'm zooming in on it, I see this little stairway coming down off of it. Huh. I am a dumb... Anyway. Everything in the building, all of the interior walls and everything, the perimeter walls remain intact, floor-to-ceiling pillars holding up the domed roof are intact. Everything else has been gutted out of this, what used to be a church. It's one enormous open room, and the walls, pillars, and floors of the building have all been painted with the hypnotic swirls of color, the swirls and spirals that you've become familiar with, looping around and through one another. And a huge fire pit is dug in the center of the floor with a shallow metal disc suspended over it, filled with a fragrant mixture of herbs and roots. And there's no source of light in here at all except the open doors. And one of the acolytes leads you in and motions to a meditation mat on the floor. And coming in behind her are 6 Flumphs. And this might be the first Flumph you've actually seen face-to-face, now that I think about it.
Probably.
And they enter, all 6 of them. And they're floating around on the air, making these soft farting noises as they move. That's not improvised, that's literally what they sound like.
It
in the
is.
book.
Yep.
If someone could post a picture of a Flumph to the chat, that would be helpful. They float in, 6 of them. And they float up around your mat, and they form what looks to be a ritualistic circle around you in the air. The acolyte starts building a fire in the fire pit. And she pours something into the disc that, when you breathe in the vapor of it, it kind of stings the inside of your nose. It kind of has like a vapor rub kind of quality to it, like a menthol kind of thing hitting inside the back of your throat. Very strange to breathe in, and it starts to bubble inside, and the incense starts to fill the room. The acolyte at this point quickly backs away, and when you look up, you see the Flumphs are starting to dance above you, swirling around like a synchronized ritual. And as you're sitting on the meditation mat, your head, the whole room starts to fill up with this incense, and as you look around, you can start to see the swirls on the wall, the paint, start to illuminate itself. And it's like you're sitting in the middle of just a psychedelic sensory chamber. It gets very heady. And you start hallucinating, and you start seeing images from your dreams, except you can almost reach out and touch them. And the whole room fills up with this incense and this smoke. And the Flumphs continue to dance. And this is how you spend your morning. And very abruptly, at the point where you can't really tell how long you've been sitting here, the doors open and the whole room floods with light again, and you shut your eyes tightly. And the Flumphs immediately end their spiral, and they circle down around you, and then exit and leave out the door. And the acolyte comes back in, and she gently places her hand on your shoulder and looks down. She holds her hand out to you to help you up.
Tarin will groggily stand up and look around the room.
And you look around the room, and you haven't come down from the high yet. You're still in that state. Like, I imagine your eyes are very dilated at this point. But looking around, like, the light is flooding into the room, but there are still shadowy corners of it, especially behind the pillars. And you can see where the sunlight cuts in through the door, it cuts away the hallucinations you're having. Like, they look so lifelike and real, but when the light touches them, they vanish like ether.
There's one detail I wanted to, I guess I didn't say it in time. Before Tarin sits down on the mat, he was going to draw his packed blade and then let go of it so it would be dismissed.
Oh, so you were going to dismiss your pack weapon before you started meditating? That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
And that happens, and you have no pack weapon. And With the Acolyte's help, she leads you back out of the meditation chamber, and you get back out into the sunlight, and over the next couple of minutes, you start to come, back down off of Cloud 9, and you see the Flumphs are moving away from you. They're headed this direction. They're floating down the mountain towards the number 2.
And I'll ask the Acolyte if I should follow them, or...
She shakes her head and says, probably Fairdak will send for you later tonight.
Alright, thank you.
And that's morning actions. Nodal. Eldove's afternoon action is the Dream Seer.
Okay.
If you want to have your dream read, that's where you're going to go to.
All right.
Everybody place yourself where you want to be for the afternoon. Cube is canvassing. Cube is...
Am I
want Cube to
hunting
get his
throughout
dreams
the day,
read.
or am I coming back?
Is what? No, you're
Would I still be
hunting
hunting?
all day.
Okay, that's what I figured. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody posted
Cube's
the Flumph in
like,
chat. That's good. That's what a Flumph
I keep
looks like.
dreaming of all my companions, and they're on the ground, and they're bleeding, and I'm holding a knife.
How did Weldon end up way down here? I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
I think it was
Weldon-
accident.
Weldon had a day.
Orphan, what is your afternoon action, ma'am?
Give me a minute. Do someone else first.
Do someone else. Okay, Arik.
Who would know about these cursed woods?
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go with him actually.
Go with Arik?
I'm gonna go with Arik.
Well, Arik is at the keep right now.
Oh, wait, who's doing the Cursed Woods?
Arik.
I will. I want to. I'm asking who would I go to talk about the cursed woods with?
The first people that come to mind would be the Rangers, but you know they're gone for the day. Other than that,
Balls.
Fairdak would almost certainly know something. Failing that, the eldest students, either Dying, the Seneschal, or Nadig,
Oh,
the guy from the guy from the pool. They've been living here the
Fairdak, then.
longest. Okay, yeah, he would be over here at the monastery, over at 20.
All right. Cool.
So is Orphan going along with them to see Fairdak?
No, I remembered what I wanted to do. It wasn't that.
Okay.
Orphan is going to go talk to Dayan because she wants to go check out some of this library that Dayan has compiled.
Okay. So you guys go to the monastery, Arik and Khalil. What is Khalil's goal? Going to...
Khalil wanted to talk to Fairdak about the smith and maybe find out what his deal is.
Fairdak is available to both of you. One of the students told him that the visitors wanted to see him, and when he sees it's the two of you, he does look a little disappointed, not gonna lie. Neither of you
The
are
two
outsiders. Neither of you are outsiders, so But he still
Yeah, sorry
welcomes
about
you in,
that.
and he's willing to help in any way he can.
Not all of us can be outsiders. Shit. Some of us are from this plane of existence.
So
No
what
reason
is
to be racist.
what is
or
Arik?
plainest.
What is Arik asking?
Plainest. I was out surveying the woods earlier this morning, and I was wondering why. What is it? Why is it? What's its deal?
You mean the corruption down by the gate?
Yeah.
And he shakes his head and says, "Nobody knows the source of it. Nobody knows the whole story about what happened to the mountain back when it was prosperous. By the time anybody came to investigate, that section of the woods was corrupted beyond repair. From time to time, aberrations come crawling out. Ben and his rangers take care of it. As long as nobody ventures in, there's very little danger."
No reports of people being poisoned or any sort of extension of the growth or anything like that?
Ben and his father, and grandfather, I imagine, used to track the growth of the forests, but it doesn't seem to be expanding or contracting. Any efforts to clear the corrupted plants is futile. They regrow very, very quickly, and attempts to transplant them to different areas of the mountain have failed similarly.
Has anyone ventured into the woods themselves, or, I mean...
He nods. He says, "Sadly, from time to time, we get adventurer groups much like yours in here. Some of them come to see the Dream Seers, some of them go to explore the mountain, and unfortunately there have been accidents, there have been fatalities. That's why I've always cautioned people from going there."
Weird.
So I hope you're not thinking of going in yourself.
Not by myself. No, I never do anything that crazy. Maybe
burn it all down.
maybe if some of my other companions would join me, we could adventure in a little bit. But I mean,
Okay, well, let me hop out of character for a second, because next week Nick's not going to be here, and someone else wasn't going to be here. Who was it?
Zook is probably not going to be here unless I magically manage to write a bunch of papers this week.
So if I have 4 players next week, that means I'm going to do like a little fluff dungeon. So, do we want to plan on doing Poison Woods next week when I have 4 players? Because I am down for designing a Poison Wood dungeon.
Sure, I'm down.
Yeah,
I don't
sounds
know.
good to me.
Sounds like fun.
Okay, so the rest of what you learn from Therdak after you give him your intention, like if you, your interest in cleansing.
I just
the
want to
wood.
make it. I just want to make it clear that I would never go in by myself. Just
Well, right.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, Fairdak says he won't stand in your way. He's happy to share all of the knowledge that he has about the woods, and that before you venture in, you should definitely speak to Ben.
Yes.
He knows that Ben is out hunting today, and will probably be back this evening or tomorrow morning. He's not sure which.
All right.
But he's more than happy to share all the information they have about the woods. He also tells you that the monks here over the years have developed poultices and remedies for the specific types of poisons that people who go into the woods contract.
Cool. I will definitely be interested about that.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to ask him?
No, that's it.
What does Khalil ask him?
I know you. I'm guessing you don't have much contact with the smith down the mountain, but I was wondering if you can give me any insight into why he might have an issue with myself or the fighter who's seeking to contract with him as well.
He says, Thodrin doesn't take on many jobs. To be honest, I'm not sure why he's taken residence up in this forge. He's been very short on the details with me. He tells me it has something to do with a divine quest that he was sent on by his clan from the mountains. He says once in a while he makes a weapon for a traveler or does some work on the side, but not very often. And I've never ventured to ask. His business is very much his own, but he does sometimes take a disliking to certain people. It's my understanding we have a guest right now in the quarters who is rather upset that the dwarf won't meet with him. I apologize for the mistreatment you've suffered.
It's not your fault. There's no reason for you to apologize.
Well, I just hope that you understand that this is not an extension of the monastery's demeanor towards you and your companions.
No, not at all.
I have been living here quite some time. I could give you the names of several excellent smiths that live further inland. It's a ways travel, but we could send word to see if one could travel out here. I can't speak as to the expense, but we can try to accommodate you if you like.
I'd like to see if I can try to possibly to convince him to turn around.
He says, today I have had a priest walk into my monastery and say he wants to cleanse the uncleansable forest. And then his friend tells me he wants to change the dwarf's mind. And I think I would bet on the priests.
I flash a Cheshire grin to Khalil. Like, huh?
He's saying the forest is a good idea.
Roll my eyes.
What is Khalil's take on Arik wanting to venture into the forest? And
He's fucking nuts, dude.
Dude, it's a cursed forest.
That's Tarin's opinion on the matter.
Wait, quick! Ask if there's any kobolds in the forest.
Because them kobolds, they sure are toilets, you guys. Herp-a-derp-a-derp.
now, there are I know Eldove was making a joke, but there are no goblinoids of any kind on the mountain. I mean, orcs, goblins, nothing. They've been...
Not even, like, poisoned, cursed goblins that we can easily kill?
Nope.
See, now Arik would be a good multi-class and a ranger.
Do you know who could possibly be an advocate and speak on my behalf?
Fairdax shakes his head and says, I've never been able to... I used to try, to be honest. The first year that Thodrin took up residence, I used to go down and try to advocate on the behalf of people who wanted to hire him, and he's never once come around.
Okay.
I don't know, Khalil. If the head guy can't convince the dwarf to change his mind...
And he's a psychic, so...
Well, here's the thing. He
Just so we're
like,
clear,
he was all
Eldove's a
for
psychic now, too.
he was all for freaking polishing up Tarin's armor and making him look all fucking handsome and shit, but
yes, he
Khalil
was.
just doesn't get it at all.
Khalil's really upset that someone likes Eldove more than him.
Khalil doesn't give two shits about who likes Eldove.
So anything else?
He needs somebody to repair his armor for him, and that's why he's trying to get this. And besides, if you want to go into the crazy poison friggin' death forest, wouldn't you want your fighter man to at least be in his peak possible, ability?
Fighting Man was a first edition class.
Fight man. Brick, that was Fight Man?
Well, how does Arik respond to that?
Fight user.
He thinks it over. He nods in agreement. Well, alright.
Put his armor
I
and
guess
walk up there.
we can try together, I suppose.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So you guys are going to head back down to the forge for the evening?
I suppose so.
If that's what you want to do. I mean, I'm not twisting your arm into it or anything.
No, you're not.
Orphan.
Yeah.
The afternoon you're spending at the quarters.
Yeah, if that's where Diane is.
And it is? And what do you ask her?
I asked her if it might be possible for me to browse some of her collection of stories.
Oh, the library is open. I mean, you can just go in. And
Okay.
what the library is all the stories that have been recovered by that magic stone. Monks and acolytes record those down onto scrolls and books in the library. So what you have access to in here is a library of stories and poetry and music and life experiences of all kinds.
I forget, was that in the monastery or the quarters?
That's down here in the quarters. Because you come into this room right here. The first room you walk through is this library. You go through the library before you go into the common room.
Gotcha. Okay. I'll ask Diane if she has any stories or anything that she collected from Tieflings.
She's seen Tieflings come and go over the years. They're not common, but they're not... Like, maybe one or two a year will come make a pilgrimage. And she asks if there's a particular type of story you're looking for.
Personal experiences, I think, over fiction.
Okay. She has one
Alright.
that she could recommend. She says it's not a pleasant story.
Well, I'm looking for the truth, not entertaining lies.
She nods. And takes her some rummaging around. You get the sense that organization in this library... Let's just say Cube doesn't work here. And she hands you a scroll.
Alright, I'll sit down in one of the straw mats and read it.
You open it up, and it's written in Infernal. And after 2 lines, you recognize the story. It's the story of a Tiefling who was a member of a band of brigands in Tetlateus. And he was pulling a job. They were highwaymen. They were going to fall down on this noble wagon. They weren't going to hurt anybody. The goal was just to rob them and make off with the gold. But it went south. They had more guards than they were expecting. This particular Tiefling was hurt very badly, had his tail cleaved off. Most of the rest of them were killed. One of the nobles traveling in the carriage was also killed. And before he knew it, I mean, he almost died from the injury, and shortly thereafter he realized he was wanted all over. They wanted his... So he traveled to the mountain here for sanctuary and to kind of get a sense of what he could do to get out of this mess. And what he was told was to flee to Romneus. And that's the story that he's presented here.
Okay.
And I mean, you recognize the story immediately. This is Khalil, the Tiefling that you met in Udok's village that was being sought by Rainry Ironglove.
Right. Okay.
So you have more details about the nobles in the carriage and whatnot, but this does confirm what Ironglove was telling you. This guy is no good. And that's the story you read.
Okay.
Zook is going to be gone for a while. Did you make all those rolls, Zook?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to know, or?
No, I do not. Tarin,
Yes.
where do you go this afternoon?
After that experience, Tarin is more than willing to, or more than happy to go down to the hot springs.
Okay. You go down to the hot springs. And who's down there? I should have made like a random hot spring table.
I'm surprised you didn't. I actually meant to ask if you had a random hot springs table.
Random hot springs generator. God, I want to go to a hot springs now. Fuck.
Okay.
I take a bath after this.
That
Yeah.
does sound nice.
Sounds really nice.
You go to the hot springs. And the two girls, Sarah and Rebecca, are sitting there, clad in their underthings. And Cube is standing next to them, regaling them with questions about their backstory. And they are beside themselves with laughter. And you see right away that they're filling his head with nonsense. Like, one minute they're ravishing runaway princesses, and the next minute they're warrior priests that are cutting down dragons, and you can see Cube is getting very, very confused. He keeps asking to go back to details in the story and plug up the holes. And that's the scene when you arrive at the hot springs.
Oh, Cube.
You, I'm gonna kind of speak out loudly so they're not too startled by my presence before, I get within sight. You, probably shouldn't try and confuse him.
And they look up and they're having the time of their lives. They love playing with this weird cubic robot monster. And one of them looks up. What's your charisma?
Mine?
Yeah. 20. Can't get higher than that. How good looking is Tarin?
I don't think he does much to keep himself... Like, he's probably reasonably good looking, but he's also probably has that disheveled, insane look in his eyes.
Dig that.
The brown-haired girl looks up, and she has this playful look on her face. And she asks, "Oh, is this yours?" And she motions to Cube.
He is a friend of mine, yes.
The blonde-haired girl looks at you, and she is checking you out. She is looking up and down the body, and you can see she likey what she sees. She's way too young for you. There's a special place in hell. We've all seen that episode of Firefly where they go over this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, although this
People
is
who talk in the theater.
this is D&D. Age of consent would mean very different on the mountain. You don't know.
It's not a Japanese role-playing game.
So yeah, the brown-haired one is
Spring
very playful, and she
naked
starts
girls.
asking you questions about Cube, like where did you find this thing, and what does it do, and did you know like it talks so weird? Does it have like a name? And she just goes on, and the blonde one is just sitting there kind of drinking you in.
Well, at any rate, I was going to take a bath myself, but if you two are here, I guess I can wait.
And the blonde one
Cube,
says, the blonde one immediately interjects. Says, no, sweetheart, come sit right next to me.
You motherfuckers with 20 charisma. What the fuck?
We're
Now,
really
How
pretty.
girl?
To be
What
fair,
the fuck?
if Eldove and Tarin didn't have 20 charisma by the level they were at, I would think something was up. Considering that is their spellcasting stat. So,
Charisma?
now
Is
hold
their
on.
spellcasting
Yeah.
stat?
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
We're
sorcerers,
very persuasive.
warlocks, and there's one other
Bards.
one, and bards.
Bards.
Yeah, fucking 5th
Because
edition,
I have
some
to-
crazy
I have to-
shit.
I
No,
have to
that's
convince-
always been charisma.
No, look,
Sorcery.
I have to ask Cthulhu to give me spells. You have to be really good at talking to people to pull that off.
Technically, that's not true. Your spells were granted to you a long time ago, and you have
Yeah,
them no
yeah.
matter what. You're not a priest, you're a warlock. That is a slight
Right.
distinction. The difference is,
He's a little mistaken. What we're doing is we're convincing reality to shape itself to our wishes.
the difference between a warlock and a priest is that if Tarin pisses off Cthulhu, he doesn't lose his magic. If Arik pisses off Osprey, he loses his shit. So
I should probably stop taking her name in vain, but
the question
Doesn't
was,
seem to have a problem with that.
the question
Osprey's
was,
salty.
how old are these girls? You had to
Yeah.
estimate somewhere between 16 and 19.
Cube could find that out for you.
They would have lied. They're gonna. Oh no, I'm totally 18.
Did you
Check
ask?
ID.
Do you ask Cube?
No,
I'm
I was,
level 18.
No, I was
And
out
then
of
Chris
character.
Hansen
I was
is hiding
asking.
over there in
Okay.
the bushes.
Tarin's only 22.
what did you ever see?
Yeah, there's somewhere between 16 and 19. That's maybe acceptable.
19 is
Let's see.
probably
Tarin
pushing
has
it, but
already
okay.
shown he has poor judgment here, so yeah, he'll sit down next to her.
Like in his clothes, just
No,
plop
he'll
down.
he'll go down to just his underwear.
Okay, so he strips down to his skivvies,
D&D just got barely legal.
and the brown-haired one, like her face turns bright red when you sit down next to her friend. And within minutes, like she's hanging, the blonde one like has her arm draped around your shoulder, and she's asking all kinds of questions about who you are. And says, "Rumor has it you have your own ship, Captain."
Well, yeah. Why else would I be a captain?
She says, "May I come aboard?" And the brown-haired girl like snorts and like she's trying to stifle laughter at this.
You should call up Fred, bring the second one, you can make you a tiny hut.
Now, as this is happening, Cube has been standing there patiently this whole time, but as she's starting to kind of hang off you a little more and more, Cube interjects, says, "I do apologize, Captain, but it seems that you are interfering with my investigations."
I'm sorry, you go ahead, and Tarin will move back to the other side of the hot tub.
And he
And
continues,
just sort of smile.
asks, he's like, "So, like, after the two of you solved the riddle of the Sphinx and saved the world, or whatever lies they were feeding him, and so, to be clear, like, you're rejecting the blonde outright. Like, you're...
Yeah.
Okay. What else is Tarin doing down here? Like, just gonna sit and...
He's just gonna relax after that experience.
The blonde
Nice to have
becomes
his armor
very
off for a
quiet.
change, not be super insanely paranoid. He doesn't even have armor back at this up for once.
So roll for initiative.
So, yeah, the blonde one becomes very quiet. The blonde one becomes very quiet. The brown-haired one goes back playing with Cube, and she's just... Every time he has to go back and clarify a particular point and whatever, she feeds him different stuff, and the story keeps changing, and she's just loving it. She loves playing with your little robot.
So to speak.
The other one wanted to play with your little robot, but you turned her down.
Well,
it's
you
called
have-
his packed weapon. Okay.
You have to hand it to Tarin. He is very loyal to his concubine.
Who we haven't seen in months.
Yeah, she's been a
Yeah,
month.
that's what I say. Is he? Because maybe he just doesn't like company.
Eldove, you have the same experience that Tarin did in the
Did
meditation
you go over that
chamber,
again?
where they bring you in. The Flumphs come in behind you. They set the incense. The acolyte leaves you in the dark alone. The Flumphs start doing a dance. The paints on the walls start to illuminate. You feel very heady, and you start to see details from your dreams. Not just the dream you had last night, but just dreams in general, like dreams of your family or of things you want to do or things you're afraid of, and you see these things take shape in the room around you, and they look so real and so vivid the whole time you're sitting here, and you lose track of time. You're not sure how long you've been sitting here before the Acolyte comes in to get you. The Flumphs stop their dance, they file out, and the Acolyte leads you back out into the sun.
That was some good tea.
And they tell you, or she tells you that Fairdak will probably send for you this evening for the interpretation.
I think her.
And that was our last afternoon action, yes?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Eldove and Tarin, you receive messages that Fairdak wants to speak to you in the monastery. That's your evening action, unless you want to bail on it.
That seems like a waste.
Zook.
Yes.
You and Ben ended up leading you way farther away from the wall than you were expecting, and about midday it becomes apparent that you're not going to get back to the mountain tonight. So as the sun starts to go down, I don't have the characters' names on screen anymore.
I have all of them. Who are you looking for?
There they are, Valfak and Kelutar. They start to make camp. They start to build a fire.
Okay.
And so you're gonna be camping in the woods tonight.
Okay. Zook's totally cool with that.
You managed to track a pair of deer. You managed to catch some small game throughout the day, but the deer is the big prize they're looking for. And there's
Actually, do you want my rolls?
not yet.
Oh, okay.
You have both. Somebody does have the microphone in their throat. It's getting very,
Yeah, someone yawned.
very lusty in here. Not in the hot springs no more, people. And
Fuck,
you're
I think it
actually
might be my microphone.
you're actually tracking a pair of them, both a doe and a stag. And Ben is very interested in bringing home this stag. So that's going to be your evening, unless you want to do something crazy out there in the woods. You're going to be
No,
expected to take watch at one point in the night.
I'm totally all about just hanging out with these dudes and seeing how they do their thing. And
They are very comfortable with each other. And what you come to learn is that both Vofak and Kelutar are outcasts. I mean, Kelutar was obvious. He's a half-orc. He was raised amongst humans in a small village. But eventually his father, who was a human, died. And as soon as that happened, the village ran him out. They got rid of him.
where was his village at? Just somewhere in...
Somewhere in Teleteus. And he wandered for a while before he fell in with a band of orc raiders, thinking, maybe he'd fit in better with orcs than humans, but that didn't really work either. He doesn't have a cruel nature about him, and he wasn't able to do it. So he very narrowly escaped them, and it was Ben was with another group. He was hired on as a mercenary, as somebody who knows the lands around here, to take down this particular band of orcs. And they spared Kelutar's life when he begged for mercy.
Okay.
And that's how Kelutar came to be with Ben. Vofak, you learn, he doesn't speak, but Kelutar shares the story with you. And Vofak gives no indication that he minds that the story is being relayed. He was a member of a tribe of nomads who lives high up in the mountains. And there was a horrible accident one day, and his sister was killed. She fell on a cliff. She slipped and fell on a cliff face, and Vofak dived to catch her, but missed, and she fell to her death. And from that day, he was called Vofak's Sister Slayer.
Ooh.
And he was exiled from his tribe. And so he came down from the mountains and spent a couple of years just kind of living on the fringes, taking what he could, where he could. And he has a very similar story. His first altercation with Ben was sent out to kill the giant in his hills, and he found out that the giant, he's sentient and doesn't have a cruel nature or anything, and he took him in.
Is he like a half giant, or?
Who do you ask?
I'd ask Kelutar, since he's telling me a story. I'd kind of ask, what's the nature of his being so big?
So I would say he's at least a quarter giant.
Dude, was his tribe in the mountain probably gigantic?
And
Or does he ever talk about it?
Neither Ben nor Kelutar have been up into the mountains.
Okay, so they don't know but he's definitely part giant somehow. But he's mostly man.
And you don't see any indication on Vofok's face that he's going to answer the question either.
Fair enough.
But I mean, Kelatar's basic response is that he's Vofok. That's all he cares about.
And Zook doesn't want to pry any more than that. He's totally comfortable with that answer. He's curious but not rude.
He says, if you cut the man, he bleeds red.
Well, I'm definitely not going to do that. He could probably squish me pretty easily.
Probably couldn't, actually, because he probably only has... If he's got class levels at all, he's only level 1, so...
No, I meant just literally, he could probably step on me.
I don't think he could do enough damage with a step, though. I'm pretty sure you could take Vofok if you wanted to.
I'm not gonna roll for initiative.
Okay.
I do find it, and Zook probably would notice, like, he finds it interesting that someone who is that physically imposing is using a bow. I mean, obviously he uses that for hunting, but that he doesn't even carry a sidearm of any kind.
Do you make note of that, or do you ask about it?
No, I'd probably just take a mental note of that, just like, oh, that's interesting.
Okay. Now, Ben is very no-nonsense. Like, as long as everybody's working, as long as everybody's doing a job, he's content. Kelatar is very chatty. He's more than happy to talk about anything and everything.